run through a motherfucker face.
I sure will. Folks, welcome to the show. Got a great show for you today. It's an interview. We try to get interesting people on. And today, and we've had him on the show before, the proprietor, the owner of the world famous, and it is world famous, Comedy Cellar, Noam Dworman. I'll be talking to him. He texted me a few weeks ago. He said, listen, I want to talk about anti-Semitism. And I said, get off the phone, you Jew. So I said, I'd love to, because he's one of my favorite people. His dad is the one who started the Comedy Cellar. His dad would give me a ride home to Queens. I would sit with his dad for hours, and Noam is smart, went to, University of Pennsylvania Law School, and and very fair when talking about both sides. And we would discuss this stuff at the Comedy Cellar and on and on. And anyways, without further ado, let's talk to Noam Dworman. My guest today, an old friend of the show, an old friend of mine, very successful. He's the owner of the world-famous Comedy Cellar, where some of the greatest comedians have just, started and graduated to bigger things. I'm not in that category. Anyways, it's our old friend, Noam Dworman. Noam, good to talk to you. What is going on? Interesting times, you have to say. I think we have a lot to chat about. Whether now, Noam, let me set this up. Noam texted me a couple of weeks ago and said, I want to talk about anti-Semitism. I said, you called the right guy. No. That is actually not true. I defend Israel and the Jews because of people like Noam, who I met in New York, and his dad. And but I'm listening a little more to what the Arabs have to say, but,
Is that true?
Kinda. No, I'm not buying.
You can tell me.
No, I know I can tell you.
Yeah.
By the way, he's I don't know why I'm throwing this in, but he's a very accomplished guitarist, too. And, well, let's start. Where should we start? Yeah, when I said I'm listening a little, people say this. Oh, fucking forgot to start my clock. Motherfucker. Nice talk, Nick. But people always say wherever political correctness and that type of stuff that happened right before Hitler became a headliner, let's put it that way in your terms, they always blame the Jews for, do you know what I'm talking about? Like right before...
Yeah, but how are you softening on?
No, I'm not ready. I'm listening more because I'm on, Steven Crowder's show. He has a very, very conservative. They get mad when I say "God damn,"
Yeah, be careful.
So they get a little upset. So I don't know. I'm assuming this, but I think they're like real. I'm not a real conservative, you know that too. But real far right. I think they sort of have this anti-Semitic streak. And so I'm just listening more. As far as some of it, I agree with like the JDL and the ADL and always painting people as victims and stuff, which they were, but I think it's gone too far. People want to point their finger at the Jews with that for whatever reason. Is that in your opinion, is there any validity to that?
Well, if what I'm hearing you saying, and I hope you're not, hemming and hawing because you're worried that I get upset about something. I know you very well. There's nothing you could say, that you could say would change my opinion.
Oh, we've proven that. I told that story about when you sat me down after playing the Comedy Cellar for years, and you go, Nick, I got to talk to you. And I was like, here it comes. I've been waiting for this forever. And you went, look, me and my dad love the way you stick your thumb in the eye of political correctness, but you're making it even hard on us now. And it's the one time that I never push back, like in somebody bringing something. I just went, I go, dude, remember what I said? I said, I'm not even going to argue it. I said, I've left here, the Comedy Cellar, feeling bad about what I said on stage. So I didn't even push back, but all I did was go to your competitor for a few months. And I didn't do that to be spiteful. I did that because I didn't want to I cherished the Comedy Cellar, and you were getting a ton of hate mail about me. So I was more than happy to let another club get hate mail. I did not want to fuck up your opera, and that's true. That was it. You know me. I'm not a business guy. Yeah.
Can I digress about this subject and then get back to Israel for a second? Because it's interesting. I might have told you a story. So when I was, this is first of all, I've been a performer, so I've learned some of these lessons the hard way.
Right.
But when I was at college, I went to see Robert Klein, the comedian.
Love him. One of my favorites.
Yeah. And he was destroying. He was killing. And in the back of the auditorium, there were some kids, had these twirling flashlights like we used to get at the Ringling Brothers Circus when we were kids. You know, and he said, "Put down the flashlights."
Oh God!
Put down the flashlights. And the kids were, they're idiots.
Yeah.
And finally, he went into a rage, righteous. I mean, he said, "Listen, put down those fucking flashlights, or I'm done with this show. Put them down now." And the kids put down the flashlights, and he never recovered. The rest of the show was shit. And I observed at that time that even though he was 100% correct,
yes,
that negative energy was self-destructive to his show. And then later on, as a performer, when an audience member would be getting under my nerves, and I would snap. I always learned the lesson. It's kind of what you're referring to. You know what? I was right, but I was wrong. The cure was worse than the disease. And so I'm totally... whenever a performer falls for that, and we know some people who, like, this is really the reason they haven't become...
Well, you're looking at them.
No, I don't want to say that, but but it's always... So I came to you that time from both sides of the coin because I know I had made those mistakes myself, but we all know, and that's why you went to the other thing, is that, in the end, it's not enough to be right. I have to succeed on stage, right? But we're all, like, suffering with our own... And by the way... You wouldn't be funny if you didn't have that disposition, which makes it impossible for you to control yourself, right? So this is a catch-22.
There is somebody who understands. That's exactly right. And I will admit that I would abuse it, especially near the end before I moved out of New York. I would just go down to the cellar or the underground, and I couldn't help it because... all day, I'm hating the people on the left and what they believe in. And then I'd go down to the cellar or wherever, and they're right in front of me so I can tell them. And then I would forget to do comedy. Well, I'd do a couple. I remember going, you fucking... I come off. I was screaming at somebody, awkward. I come off the stage. Gary Gulman's in the doorway. He goes to me, is that how it works? They don't laugh, so you go, you fucking liberal.
And he's really not. I mean, I love Gary Goldman. I think he's a genius, but he does the same thing.
Oh, he's crazier than me, I heard.
Yeah, he does the same thing. And
can I just ask you one thing, Noam?
Yeah.
You said, as a performer, when somebody in the audience is pissing you, how, as a guitarist, does somebody or a musician get pissed off by somebody in the audience?
Because quite often you're doing something quiet or something that is, you could be a moment where I've worked with some brilliant performers. And you have a moment where literally you would see people in tears, like such a beautiful moment. And it's like, who had the chicken salad? And
that's what that's a great point. That's a great point. And
it's precisely the same thing as your moment of focus at a stand-up set, and somebody just blurts out, and you say, "Are you fucking? What'd you come here for? If you didn't want to listen?" You know?
Yeah, because when you do stand-up, if you're doing it right, it looks like it's easy. If you're a good comic, you've been doing it a long time, you make it look like it looks like it's coming off the cuff. So they take that as they don't really, they don't understand. You have a plan in your head, and a way they really don't understand that. And Louis, before my one last comment on this, Louis covered that on his show. Louis, he had some girl heckling at the Comedy Cellar when somebody else was he on stage? I think it might have been him, and he just straightened her out. And then he runs into her after the show, and he goes, "See those guys?" And he points to Todd Barry and a couple other comedians who were sitting on the steps in front of the cellar, and he goes, "What did you do today? Did you?" The lady girl, and I went to work. I went shopping. He goes, "See these guys? They didn't do any of that. This is their moment. All day they've been preparing for this, and you fucked it up." It was so, again, he laid it out beautifully. But anyways, about the Jews.
So what you're saying is that the Jews cry wolf. And of course they do. Of course they do. I don't know if you're listening to the Arabs when you say that, but of course they do. Every victim group does. There's obviously an intimidation that you can get, and there's a paranoia that they have, and I would cop to all that. It has nothing to do with the fact that Hamas wants to destroy Israel and take it over. But yes, of course they cry wolf.
But like you said, every victimized group does. But the Jews seem to speak for everybody. Like, I don't know why. Maybe I'm wrong here too. LGBT, trans. You know what I mean? Isn't it like? And they have access to the blowhorn. And I'm not saying they control the media and all that shit. I'd love to say that, but I'm not going to say it to you. No, I'm kidding. So they seem to have more power, I guess, as far as getting that message out. Maybe, I don't know, but I had a lady come up to me after a show on the road somewhere a couple of years ago, and I killed. There was no problems, whatever. And she, old lady, like in her 70s, 80s. And she hands me a little, it was either a JDL or an ADL pin.
ADL, has to be ADL. JDL is like, over the top.
Okay, we'll go with ADL. I think it was the NFL, actually. She was black and Jewish. So she, the perfect combination for a quarterback. She gave me the pin, and the rest of the night I was going, because she was smiling, she didn't seem mad. I'm going, did she give me that because I did some jokes where I defend the Jews, or I made a couple Jewish jokes? You know what I mean? Was that her subtle way of going, hey? So, I don't know.
Well, look, the ADL, look, Jonathan Greenblatt, the guy is in charge of the ADL.
Yeah.
I met him recently, and I have to say he surprised me at how forthright he was and how he seemed to have snapped out of that a bit. They were all in, you're right, with every woke, intersectional thing. They had anti-racist book lists on their site and whatever it is. And what they would also do at that time is that they would try to set off, like, Ilhan Omar would make some really overt anti-Semitic comments. God. And then they would say, but Donald Trump said, how can the Jews not support me when I support Israel so much? He's engaging in anti-Semitic tropes of dual loyalty. And I was like, this used to infuriate me, because I used to say, my line was, with enemies like Trump, we don't need friends. I mean, there was never a stronger friend to Israel of any American president ever than Donald Trump. And the ADL was trying to set him off as the anti-Semites on the right and the anti-Semites on the left. Trump is obviously not an anti-Semite, never was. That was a fucking calumny, witting or unwittingly. Look at what he's doing now and think of how insane you must have been to think that this guy was an enemy of the Jews, right? So, but I think that the ADL has changed course, and I think they lost their minds, but they'll any victim group will always cry wolf, but that's not what I'm concerned about. Because my concern is that on the MAGA right, and I completely exempt Trump from this, there is real ugly, and I always defended the right from the charge of anti-Semitism. Right. Ugly stuff going on with Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones and Dave Smith and Candace Owens.
Really?
Where not that like Candace Owens is
I heard about her. Out of all those names you just mentioned, when I hear anti-Semitism discussion, her name seems to be popping up. I've seen a little bit of her shit, but go ahead.
I mean, Stalin was Jewish. The Israel was not created by Jews, but was created by pedophiles.
That's Hollywood. Go ahead.
The Nazis are getting a bum rap.
Hates Jews. Hates Jews.
It goes on and on with her. Yeah. And then she will speak kindly of people like Jake Shields or this guy Bilzerian, who actually deny the Holocaust. And she has been skeptical that Dr. Mengele could have actually done such things, and I mean, there's no end to it. Yeah, and then people like Dave, who I like, he won't say that stuff,
right?
But he will never utter he'll never dispute her. He'll never dispute her. And then Tucker Carlson will not dispute. And they'll say that the Jews were behind killing John F. Kennedy, and Lyndon Johnson was actually a Jew. I mean, there's no end to it.
Lyndon
and yeah. I mean,
oh my God.
Tucker Carlson will describe Zelensky as rat-like, sweaty persecutor of Christians, and Tucker Carlson will be dripping out like theories by David Irving, the Holocaust denier, and blaming, saying that Churchill was installed by the Zionists to get their preferred outcome, and that's why we had World War II.
Where has Tucker said this? In books or on his show? Or that surprises me.
On his show.
Yeah.
So, and I even know some behind the scenes stuff about all that, which makes it even worse. Which I'm kind of not at liberty to. I know that sounds like a
no.
Where I say fuck you, but
no.
I mean to say that when I say I know behind the scenes stuff, I mean that I can tell you that what I'm saying is 100% true. That Tucker Carlson is enamored with David Irving theories. 100%, I know it to be a fact. And David Irving is a known Holocaust denier. I'm not saying that Tucker necessarily denies the Holocaust,
right?
But he's open to the things and repeating some of the things that this guy said, including the notion that the Jews were pulling the strings and that World War II was all in the Jewish interest. He said that our support of Ukraine was in the interest of Israel. There's no end to it. And I'm very concerned about post-Trump MAGA. I have zero concern about Trump.
That's all. It's funny because my first point, I said Trump, friendliest president to the Jews. No, that was my first thing I wrote down when I was going to have you on the show.
Absolutely.
I know. I mean, this guy, come on. He's done more for the Jews in like the last, I don't know how many presidents.
He's an old dude from Queens.
Yes.
He spent his whole life around Jews.
Yes.
His daughter's married to an Orthodox Jew. And, what's interesting is that the people who say you can't trust Trump on Israel, he's transactional. But what they feel very strongly is that he's a bigot who hates Muslims, right? So if you believe he's a bigot who hates Muslims, you think he's going to take the Muslim side against Israel? Like, no.
The guy can't win.
Give him the credit of his bigotry, at least, right? He's not going to turn against Israel.
Well, that's a lot like me. I don't know that many Muslims, but from what I see, I don't. Wait a minute. What was the guy?
You can't trust DiPaolo. You can't trust DiPaolo on his opposition to affirmative action. He's liable. He's liable to. He's liable to be out there with a BLM sign anytime. He's transactional.
Yeah, I've made it pretty damn clear. What was the Egyptian kid that he still works there? Maybe at the Comedy Cellar. Hatem.
Yeah.
No, the younger guy.
Hatem Mustafa's Palestinian. Hatem Salah. I don't know which one. A bunch of Arabic guys. Most of them either still work there or I have good relationships.
Were they Muslim?
Yeah.
And never had a problem with the younger guy that would hang out at the table with us and was the
no. Interestingly,
and your dad hired a bunch of them, and that place runs like clockwork, which is proof. I think it's more about the media pitting each other against. But go ahead.
No, I mean behind closed doors, my father used to speak with glowing admiration of his Arabic employees.
Yes, he
used to
did.
say they're honest, they're hardworking. He
just like the blacks.
Yes. when it came, yeah, Nick, what are you gonna do to me? When it came to,
I meant that sincerely. We're talking to Noam Dworman, by the way.
When it came to Israel, yeah. He knew that they were 180 degrees in disagreement, and they would have knockdown, drag out fights, but there was deep affection. And it's usually I have much better conversations with. Like if you say to the average Arabic person that I know anyway, so listen, the Palestinians are never going to make peace with Israel. They can't accept it. They never will. Every Arabic person I know will say, yeah, I know, but some dumb white liberals like, they have a dream of living side by side, hand in hand, kumbaya, because they don't know a fucking thing about the reality,
They always, especially right now with Trump, this whole comeback politically. We're talking to Noam Dworman, by the way, the proprietor of the world-famous Comedy Cellar. Very smart dude, very Jewish. That's why we have him on the show. We don't get many Jews. What was I going to say? With Trump, goddamn, what was my point? I always do this. You see young black people now making videos, like when I go on X and screaming at the Democrats and all this USAID shit. And these aren't real high. These aren't like upper class black people. I'm talking street working class guys, and they're screaming into their phone about the Democrat and how they've been fucking us for so long. And I just thought, Go ahead.
I'll tell you where I am on all that. I've seen headlines that they're cutting vital medicine to Africans who, have HIV, and that if that's true,
Yeah.
of course I'm against that. America is wealthy enough to not cut the medicine that keeps people alive in Africa. But the problem is, and I know you feel the same way, I don't fucking know what to believe anymore.
That's right.
I have seen so many fucking headlines of disasters, and there was always like, well, it wasn't quite true. And up until the election, we were being told, and it's not by the crazy right-wing people who, nobody ever said you should rely on. I'm talking about like the New York Times, the stodgy PhD, the gold standard. We only deal in truth. They were telling us that Joe Biden is smarter than he's ever been, and he's totally with it. And Trump actually has cognitive decline and can barely read. And Biden is a super ager. That's what the New York Times said.
Right.
And it's like, you fucking liars. You lie about everything. And you see Trump now. This guy is clearly not in cognitive decline, right? I mean, this guy is speaking hours and hours and hours, barely has a misstep. He has some knowledge, not perfect knowledge. He has some knowledge of every issue that they throw at him.
But
every single issue.
You say you don't know who to believe, but we all know the left runs the fucking media, and all this shit is coming out now, and I happen to be believing the right almost my whole entire career. So, I mean, I don't like when people equivocate and go, both sides do it. That's fucking bullshit. The left has the blowhorn. They still do. Now they don't know what to do with it because they've been exposed. But yeah, there's a few wackos on the right, but they're not the ones you're going to see on TV. No liberal's ever been fired for being too liberal on a radio show or a TV show. I think it's one side is way more full of shit than the other. I've been saying that for years.
I tend to agree with you.
Folks, I will be go to nickdip.com, click on the tour button, and you will see that I will be in Bricktown Comedy Club in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I'm reading off the paper when it's right up there. Oh, I had this shut off. Go ahead, next. The very next night after the Bricktown Comedy Club in Tulsa, the 21st, which I'll be the very next night, St. Louis Funny Bone. And then March 13th, Hyenas in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And then April 25th, Cohoes Music Hall in Cohoes, New York. Beautiful theater. May 15th and 16th, Zanies in Rosemont, Illinois. And if you want to support the show, folks, go on the merchandise page. We got a bunch of new stuff. My wife worked really hard on this stuff and setting up the page. And we got you see it right there. For you blind people, we have plastic hips, Nick DiPaolo canes and walkers, baseball hats, hoodies, all that good stuff. So do buy that at nickdip.com. If you guys are watching the free version, are we still doing this? Yeah. The free version of the show, you can watch full episodes of my show, Louder with Crowder, and all exclusive Rumble content, ad-free with one subscription. Click the red premium button below and enter promo code MUGCLUB, that's one word, to get $10 off an annual subscription. And you'll love it. You'll be glad you did. Back to me and Noam Dworman.
Hi. Good night, everybody.